The other thing that happened recently was I went to a district in London that I've not been to for quite a long time, a couple of years probably. I've not really been to this area because it's an area that I used to spend time in with an ex-girlfriend of mine. And she lived near there and we used to go shopping there and we passed through to go to to get on the subway, the tube and so on and so forth. And it's a place and also as well, there was a couple of times we had kind of breakups and then we would meet up in this particular area and I would say my sorries and bring her my flowers purchased in the local garage and try and make it up with her and we get back together. So it has a resonance for me. It has memories for me that are impregnable. And I went back to this place to go and work with a client. And I didn't really think much of it because you think, well, look, I mean, it's been a few years. I'm just going to go and work with this client. It's no big deal, whatever. And it really wasn't. I went there and I worked with the client and then we were having a coffee and then we finished our meeting. And I then went to go and leave. And I walked through this area and I was looking around and it was just strange. The emotion just suddenly hit me, And what I found is that there were actually tears forming in my eyes. And it's strange because I don't cry very often. And I think when you do cry, sometimes it kind of starts differently, doesn't it? Sometimes it can start with this kind of sob and you're just like overcome and you start to sob and it starts to all come out. And this time for me, that didn't happen. It was strange. Just the tears just started to form in my eyes, and I'm walking around, and I could just feel it welling up and the liquid coming down. And I wasn't sort of like sobbing or anything. I wasn't like crying at that point, but the tears were starting to come out. And I was like, geez, this is, I didn't expect this. So I had a little bit of a wander around, and my eyes are getting kind of misty because the tears are, forming and stuff. And I was just looking at some stuff, and I went into a store where we used to go, just like a food store, whatever. And obviously all the Christmas decorations were up as well, and they're playing the Christmas songs and stuff like that, which I suppose doesn't help. And it just built up on me. It built up, and and then I started to come out, and I had to take a bit of a moment. And then I walked out of this store, and I just sort of wandered blindly for a little bit. And people must have been looking at me like, who the hell is this guy, like wandering around like a zombie? And so then I thought, well, look, I need to get out of here. There's no point in prolonging this. So I went to the subway and I got on the subway train and got out of the area. And then I went to meet some friends and, it kind of passed over. But again, and this relates back to some videos that I put out earlier this year, it just reminds me that, in a life that has probably been demarcated by, some might say, somewhat shallow relationships where I probably haven't fully revealed myself to the other person. And maybe that person's revealed themselves to me, or maybe I haven't chosen to accept that, or I've been quite sort of avoidant, I think is the term. I think in a life that's been demarcated by relationships like that, this one I think had a depth to it, a sort of reality to it that perhaps has been absent, or perhaps I've tried to avoid, let's say, in other relationships that I've had. And I think it was real, for me at least. I can't speak for the other person. I'm not inside anybody else's head, so I can't say how it was. And, and there again, sometimes I think back on this same person and this same situation, and I think, well, how well did I really know her? Did she really feel the same about me as I believe now that I felt about her? And the truth is, I don't know the answer to that. And I probably will never know the answer to that. And in a sense, that doesn't really matter because we're not talking about anyone else here. I'm talking about myself and my own, I suppose, at least capacity to love in some shape or form, right? And I sometimes think that... I suppose I've sometimes thought that I don't have that capacity, or at least that I've suppressed it, probably to avoid potential emotional pain and stuff like that. And I think that this little incident shows that I do have that capacity, that I am at least a human being among other human beings, which is, I guess, nice to know, but it also harks back to some of the videos I was making earlier in the year when I was saying, you just, in this space, it's very popular to say, yeah, well, they're all replaceable, and there's billions of people on the planet, and you'll always find another woman, and there'll always be somebody else, and don't get hung up, and don't get one-itis, and all this kind of stuff. And in many ways, all that stuff is true. That is true. I mean, logically, if I get on a plane, I go to Istanbul, right? The streets are crammed with people. There are just, there are billions of people on this planet. Okay, there are billions of women on this planet. There are billions of people one could get into a relationship with. Okay, so mathematically, that's absolutely true. But at the same time, I think there are people that you just have a deeper connection with. That you just, for whatever reason it is, DNA. On whatever primordial level, you just have a deeper connection with, you just have a deeper resonance with. And I don't think you can replace those people, And I was seeing a post on Instagram the other day, and it was sort of saying, you fall in love 3 times in your life. And, and there was this, it had some pithy text then, which I didn't bother to read. But I think that that's probably true. Robbie Williams once said, you get a certain number in your life when you're born, you get a certain number of sex tokens. It's like, right, you're going to have sex X number of times. Okay, here you go. And then you get a far smaller number of love tokens. That is to say, people that you fall in love with, and there's something there. There's something real there. You get a very small number, maybe 2, 3, 1, whatever it is. And I don't know that they're replenished. I don't think they're replenished, really. And sometimes I think, well, that's it for me. And I don't mean I'll never meet anybody else. I'd never be in a relationship or whatever. But I just mean, can I ever reach that depth of feeling for somebody again? And do I even want to? And the answer is I don't really know, to be honest. I have to say that in the last, you can get into a lifestyle and you spend time traveling around, and it's like, oh, there's this girl in Istanbul, and then there's this girl in Warsaw, and there's this girl over here, and blah, blah, blah. And it's all very sort of shallow and fun and sexy and superficial and exciting and all this kind of thing. But also, it can be, I'm not saying it always is, I'm not saying it's a bad lifestyle to have, but it doesn't have the level of depth. And I don't know whether I can ever experience that level of depth again. And as I say, I don't really know that I want to experience that level of depth again, even if it were possible. So that then leaves you in a sort of a bind, doesn't it? Because then you're in the situation of well, okay, so what is the end game here? What is the next step? What is the game plan? And again, I don't really know. I think that the big difficulty, I can teach guys to become proficient socially. I can teach guys how to get better results, with dating. That side of the thing is actually, in a way, as much as it's a huge problem and I respect that for a lot of people who watch this content, in a way, that's the easy part. The more challenging part, or for me at least, is what you do then after that. Okay. And I think relationships in this world are becoming more difficult. Not just for me. I was reading some stuff on Instagram the other day, nothing to do with the men's online self-help space or anything like that. It was just a regular sort of mainstream Instagram post. And so many people were writing underneath this post how difficult it is to find meaningful, lasting relationships now with the way that the world is. And, so there's a lot of people who are having trouble with this stuff out there. If you would like to jump on a free call with me to talk about your own situation, if any of this resonates with you, then you can do that on my Calendly link below. And yeah, I'll see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.